I spoke with someone who is coming to study next year under the GCUB mobility program. I decided to make this video. It's somehow motivational, or maybe to clear some doubts about the Portuguese language. Most of you know that Brazil speaks Portuguese, and some of you guys ask if it's possible to come to Brazil without the language. Well, it's possible, of course. Okay, I've seen many cases of people coming here and, living, but along the line, you have to learn the language. Whether you like it or not, you have to learn the language, right? Because Brazil speaks Portuguese. Everything you treat here in Brazil is in Portuguese. That's their language. The websites, the documents, everything is in Portuguese. The exception you would find, or maybe let's say an option for language, is that at the postgraduate level. I think I've made a video and spoken about that. So if you are at the postgraduate level, master's, doctorate, okay, you can write in English. When getting a good vacancy at the postgraduate level, sometimes they say, okay, you need to prove that you know English through TOEFL, through some international examinations. You are able to prove that you understand English at the technical level at least. But you have to speak Portuguese. That is the fact. Even if you come without learning the language, you have to speak Portuguese here in Brazil. Are you supposed to be scared? Of course, it's normal to be scared if you are going to a country that speaks a different language. You have no notion of that language, and you know that you need the language to communicate, to study, to relate with people. It's normal to be scared. But I want to tell you that it's possible to learn the language. Since the GCUB is a young program, I believe that with time, they will try to see if it's really possible to bring people without speaking the language. Before you guys, our program used to exist, that's pec-g. And under pec-g, you had two alternatives. Either you studied the language in your country, or you came here to study the language. Right? I studied in Nigeria. In 2009-10, I studied Portuguese language before coming to Brazil. So when I came, I was already speaking Portuguese. It was basic level Portuguese, but at least I could communicate and listen, to people trying to communicate with me. Some people coming from countries like Ghana could study Portuguese here in Brazil, but you had to go to specific cities. Okay, for instance, Fortaleza, that's the capital city of Ceará state. You had other center in Belo Horizonte, that's Minas Gerais state. You had other centers in São Paulo, at Bahia, Rio Grande do Sul, all over the country. So you could come and then go straight to those centers, study the language for 1 year. That time, you had no guaranteed vacancy. You had to pass the language first for you to get access into the university. But in your case, you already have the vacancy. So one way or the other, you're going to get there sooner or later. It depends on how you learn the Portuguese. So if you are coming, I think you guys will have to go through the language first before you go into the classrooms. At the postgraduate level, it's possible to start studying without the Portuguese. Maybe you're going to be treated as a special student, okay? But in case, if you will participate in the normal classes with the rest of the Brazilians, then you will need Portuguese. In the case of the project, that is another thing. Okay, most of the studies, the articles, the books you're gonna read, you have more contents in English. You even have an advantage, because you already know English, so you can do the research, you can write in English. Is Portuguese difficult? Well, it's relative. If I should say Portuguese is difficult, then I'm gonna scare you. And if I say it's easy, then I'm gonna lie to you. But yes, no. Okay, let's see yes. Why is Portuguese hard, difficult? Because it has a very large structure. In a simple language, it's full of rules. You have so many rules. You break them every day without even knowing that you're breaking them. That's Portuguese. In English, it's easier to identify the rules. But in Portuguese, sometimes you have that conviction that you are right, but you're not right because the rules are so enormous. That's what makes Portuguese very difficult. And at the technical level, I think it's very difficult to write in Portuguese. Okay, you would need years of training in order to develop the formal Portuguese. But let's talk about the easy part of Portuguese. There is the technical Portuguese and there is the spoken Portuguese. That is what the people communicate with. So at the societal level, Portuguese is easy. You just get the techniques of how they communicate, and that's all. Sometimes what you might listen to is wrong based on the rules of Portuguese, but that's how they communicate. So sometimes I hear people saying, well, you speak good Portuguese. It's because I try to learn the way they speak. I try to imitate how they articulate their words. So Portuguese is difficult and easy at the same time. Now I'm going to tell you a story that happened when I was learning Portuguese. I participated in a group. So the group was given a scholarship. We were 14 in number, and in the Portuguese school, Portuguese was a little bit difficult. At the inception, you have this feeling, is it possible to learn this language? You want to hear someone who has learned the language. And I think it's necessary that I'm giving you this testimony. I speak Portuguese currently. It's possible to learn Portuguese. It's possible to survive here in Brazil. Within the group, there was this doubt that is it possible to learn the language? And I was also battling with this doubt because after learning the language, you have to sit for self-rebrise. Self-rebrise is a proficiency test. In general, the universities request for that certificate. I'm talking about years back. If you were a participant of pec-g, you had to present that certificate. So with an intermediary level, you were able to get a vacancy. The doubt of going through the language itself and then sitting for the examination was a torture. Imagine you spending 6 months or even a year and then failing the examination. So it was very difficult at that time. And I could understand why some decided to give up the process. I understand that. They left. I don't know if they left for good or they left for bad. But I want to tell you that fear can lead you to take a decision that might not be good for you. Some of us need the slightest excuse to give up. Some of the things we give up are great opportunities. Coming to Brazil is a great opportunity. It's not just going to study in a different country. Okay? What makes it more special than other countries that speak your language is the fact that you are about to immerse yourself in a different culture. And I'm sure that when you come here, you would activate a side of you that you never imagined. The way I perceive the world today is different. So whether you like it or not, there is something that you would learn in the Brazilian society when you come. In order to overcome the fear of Portuguese, try to focus on the benefits, on the doors that would open when you come to Brazil. You are coming to study, you are coming to learn a new culture, you are coming to see a different world. That's one of the things that can be of motivation to you in order not to give up, right? Or in order not to feel that difficulty. Just feel it like, well, I want to have this sensation. How is it like to wake up and people speaking something strange around and then me feeling, well, I need to break these walls in order to communicate with these people. That could be of motivation to you. Portuguese is like a river, right? So on the other side of the river, you have precious things you love. Maybe your family, your friends, or something that you really admire or you can't live without. So imagine Portuguese is that. And the river, you have the depth of the river. It's scary. You have the current that could take you. You could drown. Imagine the animals there. So instead of focusing on the animals, the depth, the current, you can just focus on what is on the other side of the river. So the process of learning how you would struggle to go to the other side of the river could just be something you could take the risk without focusing on. Okay, so that helps you a lot, right? So I'm going to end this video here. I will always wish you the best as you come to Brazil. And for those of you who are coming to UFMA, for instance, Raymond, who inspired this video, I think we will personally meet, right? So see you in the next video.